My name is Yahya Mahamid. I'm 21 years old. I'm an Israeli. I'm an Arab. I'm a Muslim. And I'm a proud soldier in the Israeli Defense Forces. I grew up in the Arab village of al-Fahim. I grew up in a country that I was taught to hate. But eventually I fell in love with Israel. I decided I wanted to give back to my country. So even though I am not required to do military service, I chose to enlist in the IDF and join a combat unit. I was nervous about how the rest of my platoon would feel about serving with a soldier who comes from a Muslim background. But I was greeted with open arms, treated with nothing but respect and admiration. Today I officially finished advanced training in the Nahal Infantry Brigade. And when I stood on the ceremony alongside the brothers that I had been training with for the last 8 months, I was proud to accept the responsibility of standing at the borders and protecting my country, Israel. What made me fall in love with Israel was the resilience of its people, and I'm proud to be part of that people. And I'm proud to be me, an Israeli, Arab, Muslim, IDF soldier.
Many of you know today's guest as one of the strongest Arab voices defending Israel, but he wasn't raised that way. Yahya Mahamid grew up believing many of the same things about Jews and Israel that millions across the Middle East are taught from childhood. If you had told him he'd one day serve in the IDF, proudly call himself a Zionist, and fight anti-Semitism, he would have thought you were crazy. Then one act of kindness changed everything. It came at a tremendous cost. He lost his friends, received death threats, and his relationship with his family was deeply strained, but he refused to stay silent. Today, we'll talk about the beliefs he left behind, what changed his mind, the price he paid, how October 7th reshaped his perspective, and whether he still believes Jews and Arabs can build a future together. Yahya, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. And thank you for that introduction.
Yahya, you once believed Jews were monsters. Today, you've risked your life defending the Jewish state. How does something that impossible, that unlikely happen?
If you put it like that, then yes, it sounds very impossible. But well, God has a path for us. And I believe this is the path that God has chosen for me. As you said, I was told from a very young age that I do not belong here. And the Jewish individuals are trying to get me out from where I live. And our eternal enemy forever will be the Jews and the state of Israel. And that's kind of like what I was brought up on. And I was not alone. A lot of Arabs and Israeli Arabs are brought up with this ideology, unfortunately. But as it may sound, like a movie script or something, truth will always prevail. The truth always prevails. And I was very, very, very lucky to have met such a beautiful soul that set me on the right path. And I am very proud and happy that spirit, that person, was a Chabad guy, because I became one of the first strong believers of Chabad. My IDF unit, my colleagues in the IDF know me as the Chabadnik, the Muslim Chabadnik. I'm all for Chabad, so I'm happy where I am. I'm not proud of where I was, but I'm happy where I am today.
Now, let's go back to your childhood. What exactly did you believe about Jews growing up? If I walked into your classroom when you were 10, 11, 12 years old, what would I have heard?
My earliest memory, I was a little kid. I was visiting my family in the West Bank every summer break. Like every child, we look forward to that summer break. And on that summer break, I got a core memory, so to speak. It was one of my first memories as a child. I was visiting my family in the West Bank in the Tul Karim refugee camp, and there were some clashes. I can't really exactly remember, but what I do is engraved over here in my head. What I do remember was a Merkava tank driving through the refugee camp. And I remember as a kid, the ground was shaking. And, kids like soldiers and like tanks and cars and stuff, but that kind of memory still follows me until today. I never thought if you told that kid that, you would fight along that tank one day. It's this, but that was my childhood, basically, a very complicated one. I'm not unique. A lot of Israeli Arabs have relatives in the West Bank, and if they don't, they kind of spend their weekends in the West Bank because it's much cheaper and it's very hard to beat a very good price. So you find a lot of the Israeli Arabs are in and out of the West Bank and etc. My classrooms at school, unfortunately, were I was taught in the Israeli education system, but unfortunately, I was not given an Israeli education. I was given a made-up history, or as I like to call it, the world started in 1948 and nothing but. And one of the sentences that I was told about the Jewish people, not that we speak about them in our schools, Israeli Arab schools, but one of the first sentences that I got about the Jewish history and the connection to this country, Israel, was from my religion teacher, and he was teaching us about history because our history teacher did not show up that day, so they brought up a substitute. And while he was teaching us about history, he was talking about the Second World War, and he said, and I quote, that Hitler did a good thing. And he was referring to the Holocaust. If you ask those misconceptions, those lies, those anti-Semitic lies are unfortunately spread. They're done spreading because they have reached every corner in the Arab world. So my upbringing was not unique per se, but I chose to do the right thing.
I've heard about the influence of Nazi Hitler in the Arab world. What is it specifically about trying to brainwash the population to think kind of like Nazi ideology, right? Maybe take us behind the reasoning of why they do that.
Nazism and the resistance movements that we have today, Hamas, Fatah, all of those movements are not strangers to one another. Actually, not a lot of people know this, but the Nazis actually sent Palestinians to do terrorist attacks in Israel. So that two sides kind of like, I don't want to call them opposites, but they are opposites, kind of like came together under the umbrella of hating one group, and that kind of brought people underneath that umbrella back in the day. In today's world, that book that you spoke about is found in Gaza, is found in places where poverty rules and education is very, very restricted and monetarized. So you find those kind of, I don't want to even call them books, or those horrific ideas written on paper, just spreading like wildfire. So yeah, it was found in Gaza. You probably will find it in the West Bank. You will find it. It's not so unique anymore because poverty and terrorism go very well hand in hand together. So whatever there is poverty, you find those things in the Arab world and stuff. I am very happy to say that this is a past habit. You would not find this book in modern Arab countries like the UAE, any country that has self-respect, and any country that's trying to, what my father and grandfather did. Maybe I don't agree with it, or maybe I do, but now it's time for a change, and that's on me. So my kids and my grandkids will put everybody on the right path. So you find those books, unfortunately, but I'm happy to say that they're going away. Gaza is an exception because Gaza is very black and white. It's very enclosed. It's very controlled, so to speak. So yeah, a lot of it was found in Gaza.
You mentioned that, Rabbi, that kind of turned your heart. People assume that facts change people's minds, but in this case, it seems like kindness changed your heart before facts changed your mind, right?
Kindness is our only weapon. This is what I mean. The act of acceptance that we have as the pro-Israel side is our greatest weapon. It's not the companies that are sitting in Tel Aviv. It's not that we invent life-saving things every once in a while. It's not that Israel is the best country in the Middle East. Kindness is what sets us apart from our enemies. And when I was approached by the Chabad rabbi, and he asked me, this was just before Sukkot, and he had a lulav and an etrog in his hand. He started telling me, he thought I was Jewish, so he started telling me how important it is to keep the mitzvot and for the holiday. And when I told him that I'm not Jewish, he said that it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or not. What matters is that you're a good person. So the act of acceptance is our greatest weapons. Again, our humanity is what distinguishes us from the other side, and it is our greatest asset and should not be let go or changed for something else. Everything else that Israel is great at is a gift from God, is a sign that Israel is on the right path, but that's our main thing. I think people tend to forget that, I think people tend to forget that what makes Israel unique isn't the fact that we have cyber companies that are leading or something. It's the fact that when an earthquake happens, when a natural disaster happens, we are the first to hop on a plane, go help other people. And that is what really matters, because we need to be humane, because the other side is trying to paint us as inhumane. So we need to combat that thing. I invite everybody to, accept that part of Israel. Sometimes it doesn't make sense what Israel does, and people disagree with it. But that's what sets us from them. So it's very important that we keep that part very preserved.
Now, the first time you publicly defended Israel, what happened? Maybe you can take us of your life in that time.
The first time I spoke out was when I was a teenager in 2014. Unfortunately, I woke up to the news, just like a lot of Israelis, to the kidnapping of 3 young Israelis, Gilad, Ayal, and Naftali. May their memory be a blessing. When I heard the news, or when the whole country heard the news, not everybody knew what happened to those kids. And I decided to speak out and join an international campaign to bring awareness to what just happened in Israel. And I took a picture of myself holding the Israeli flag and calling for the world to open their eyes to what's going on in Israel. And unfortunately, after that moment, my life was set on a new path, or maybe the path that was chosen for me. I got a lot of death threats from friends or people that I thought were friends, from classmates, from school, from neighbors, people that I knew, people that I would say hi to them on the street and they would say hi back. Suddenly to just see them switch like that because I condemned a terrorist attack was kind of surprising. But later on, I decided that this is my calling, and I continued doing my work. And I want to just paint this picture for you from my eyes. This problem, let's call it, this hatred towards Israel and the Jewish people, was a problem only in my village. That's what I thought. And to my surprise, once I stepped foot outside of Israel to share my story of where I was and where I am today, I was surprised to find that the same lies that I was told in Fahm are being told all over the world, are being told on college campuses in the US. The same lies that I was told were told in other languages. And I learned a new word. I learned the word of anti-Semitism, which was a big surprise to me. I grew up in a Jewish state. That's anti-Semitism is not a thing over here. And I decided that I should do something about that. And that's what I did. So I continue to do work in my town and other towns. I continue to be an address to every Israeli Arab that wants to integrate and wants to serve the country. And I do believe that all the hardships that I went through were very much worth it to make sure that other Israeli Arabs don't go through it. Because when I went through it, I was on my own. And now I make sure that when people decide to take this path, they're not on their own. And I'm not alone. I have friends who would sacrifice and give away everything that they have. I have a great friend. His name is Ben Goldstein. He helps lone soldiers, and he helped me during my service, and he helped my cousins when they drafted to the idea. And he helped my cousins when they drafted to the idea. And he helped so many other Arab men and women during their service. So I'm not alone. And we have an army, a different army that nobody mentions usually, is the thousands and thousands of Jewish grandmothers that will happily support you at a time of need. So I'm not alone. I'm just, I'm making sure that this whole world gets translated into Arabic and it reaches Israeli Arabs that decide to take this path.
Yeah. You believe that there's a lot of Arabs, Muslims that think the way you do, but they're afraid of the backlash that they're going to receive? I find when I interview people like yourself that the story kind of repeats itself, that they all kind of went through some sort of backlash. And perhaps not everybody could handle that. What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting that the story repeats itself. What I say is it's the simplest answer is usually the answer. A lot of Arabs are just people that are trying to live and Unfortunately, we have a small minority that gets TV time, that gets headlines, that gets all the attention from the media. Because unlike you and what you do is to share humanity and humane stories and hope, you sell hope. Unlike you, they sell hatred and they sell fear. Because let's be frank, to sell fear, fear sells very well. And to scare people kind of engages them more than to sell them hope and give them hope. So to give you an example, since October 7th until today, me and all the Israeli Arabs that served in the army, and while fighting for our country, we barely got any airtime from our country, the media. We did go on TV, especially days after October 7th, those of us that were yet to be called. But since then, our time on TV to speak our story and to normalize this is very little compared to an anti-Israel Knesset member or something like that. So I believe there's something to be fixed about this matter. The story differs for Arabs outside of Israel, although Jewish media has been very active on elevating their voices. But again, we see this happening more and more, and I hope that this will become the norm, because we have a silent majority in the Arab world that just wants to live and doesn't want Iranian ballistic missiles flying over their country to attack Israel. They have other things to worry about. So a lot of Arabs are waking up and saying, what my grandfather did and what my father did, maybe I agree with it, maybe I do not, but I'm choosing a different path for myself, and it takes time. I have a friend from Jerusalem who decided that he had enough with Israel and the way he was getting treated in Jerusalem. So he picked up his things and left. And he said, no more. I am not returning to this land. I don't see myself living here. I don't see myself raising children. And when he did, he ended up in the USA. He's a barber. And I connected with him a few months ago, and I asked, how are you, dude? It's been a long time. He left way before October 7th war. I connected with him and I said, how are you? And he says, I'm great. And I asked, where are you located now and stuff? And he tells me he's in a very Jewish area in the USA. So I asked him, I was like, you were here, you missed the scenery, you missed the interactions. And he's like, they kind of didn't work for me except in this area. So I think that God has put Arabs and Jews on this land on purpose to work it out, just live together. And it's just what we should do, It's just what we should do. For the past 70, almost 80 years, we've had wars, we've had conflicts, we've had bloodshed. And I believe that this land is holy. The land of Israel is holy. God has chosen this land, and we must act like it's a holy place, like it's a synagogue or a mosque. And people kind of forget about that, Again, it's hard right now to think about it this way because there's a war going on outside, even though it doesn't feel like it. But after the war, when we have our best days and not our worst days, I hope people wake up to this fact. God has put the cousins together, so the cousins work it out and live with one another. A nice analogy that I like to put is with Yitzchak and Ishmael, the two brothers where it all started. The decision of which son gets to be sacrificed is the main debate, what people like to say. But unfortunately, people tend to forget that it doesn't matter which son was decided on to be sacrificed. It's the fact that both sons had to cry on their father and go bury him. It's the fact that our faiths are always connected. It's the fact that we will have the same sorrow and we will have the same happiness no matter what we believe in. We live in this land. We should all protect this land from everybody else. And I believe a lot of Arabs are waking up to it. And I always tell my Jewish counterparts, I will work on my side if you work on your side.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% that the Israeli channels should shed a spotlight on people like yourself. And if I had a channel, that would do. But I don't have it, so I do it on my YouTube channel. So you stayed inside your house for about 2 months, right, after the whole backlash. What were those days like emotionally? Was there any point when you said this isn't worth it to speak out like this? Take us through that point of your life.
Yeah, when I spoke out for Israel and for what happened, my social life was destroyed, to say the least. And I lost all my friends. I lost my education. I couldn't go to school. I didn't go to my graduation. I had to quit work. So as you put it, those 2 months when I was home, I was mainly thinking of what I did wrong and what I did to deserve all of this hatred that's coming towards me. As a teenager, I couldn't answer that question. I think until today, where it's almost been 10 years, way past 10 years, I think can't answer that question until today. But what I did think was, this is my thing to do. This is my thing to do. This is what I should do. This is the right thing to do. And from those 2 months to my service in the IDF, from those 2 months to my service in the IDF as a lone soldier, life has been not kind, you know? There were some ups and downs and some challenges. But again, the good people do make the journey, and doing what's right, it's what really matters. The fact that we have it right now where Jewish students have to hide their Jewish identity in Jewish-funded schools is the kind of reality that we live in when people don't do what's right, when people kind of like just ignore what their duties are. So I never thought about this being not worth it. It's been always worth it. I will die on that hill, as they call it. It's been always worth it. You know, as from when I put on the green uniform, that beautiful green uniform, and I work night shifts, or when I hop on a plane and go across the globe to another city, it's the same energy. It's the same feeling. And I do continue to have those, I don't want to call them butterflies, because, I was instructed by my wife to only love her. So I can't say I love Israel. You know, I truly adore Israel. I get those butterflies. I get those butterflies when talking about the country. It's been always worth it and always will be. I will teach my kids to continue this path. And we have to wake up. The pro-Israel side has to wake up, because we are losing the number games. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of Jewish people around the world. There's always more enemies than the Jewish people and the pro-Israel people. So we have to be very smart about what we do. We have to utilize. There's no day off for an Israeli for an Israel advocate. There's no day off for being Jewish. There's no day off from being an IDF soldier. We have to stay on. Otherwise, we will see. I mean, we did see, if we go on a day off, even for a few hours, like October 7th, our enemies would immediately take advantage of that. So it's been always worth it.
Now, what was the year that you joined the IDF, and what was that like, your time in the IDF? And also the kind of like, I guess your mother was the one that, or your family kind of didn't want you to be in the IDF, right? Take us through that.
So I made a decision in 2017 is to draft to the IDF, and I went and I asked my Jewish friends. I said, guys, how did you join the IDF? And they're like, we don't know. We just got it in the mail. We got a letter in the mail. And I'm like, well, I didn't get the letter. How do I initiate the process? And they're like, we don't know. So I've had enough, and I went to the recruitment office in Jerusalem, and I handed them my ID, and I demanded to be drafted. And the 18-year-old at the gate looks at me, opens my ID, and looks at me, and she goes, are you sure you're at the right place? And I said, I am sure I'm at the right place. Please take me. And I did start initiated the process, and I was doing the exams and everything. And then I was unfortunately given the answer of no, you cannot draft, and no explanation. So just like any good Israeli would do, I went again and knocked on their door, and I started the process again and again. And just months before I was scheduled to draft, again, I got a rejection letter. And again, I went knocking on the same doors, and I went through the process again and again. For the third time, it was like a Jewish conversion. The third time is the charm. I went in, and they drafted me. And I decided to be a combat soldier. So that's what I did in the IDF. My time in the IDF was the absolute best, worst time of my life, as a lot of people would put it. It's the best time to make friends, the best time to get in shape, the worst time for your sleep schedule, the worst time, and the worst time for your eating habits. Absolutely worst time. But it was very much worth it. I drafted as a lone soldier in March of 2018. I was blessed with a company of friends, brothers. I would call them Israelis and Ulim Khadashim. We had Justin from Australia, who came all the way from Australia to serve. We had Jeremy and Jacob from the West Coast that came and served. These are the types of people that I would never meet being raised in Al-Fahim. It's only in the IDF where you meet people from around the world that come under one umbrella to serve the state of Israel. So I met those people, I trained with them, I sweat with them, and I bled with them, and they became my brothers in arms. And the true moment came where we finished our advanced training and we went and joined our units, and it was showtime, as we call it. So we were sent to the Golan Heights first, and we served on the Syrian border first, and then we were sent to Gaza, which was it was the height of every Friday they would come to the border and try to infiltrate the border. And I am very proud to have served on that border, and me and my friends and everybody in the IDF chain of command really worked day and night to make sure that the communities were safe. Unfortunately, we did see on October 7th what happened if they have crossed that border successfully and what they would do to the communities. So that was my IDF service. Along the service, I said to myself, like, Yahya, you're not crazy. You know, you can't be the only Israeli Arab that decided to serve in the IDF. So I started searching for other Israeli Arabs that serve with me. And I found a group of Israeli Arabs from towns like mine, where it's not acceptable to draft into the IDF. And I even found, it's very hard to believe until you see it, but I even found an Israeli Arab Muslim woman. She was with a head covering, and she also chose to be a combat soldier. Just imagine an IDF uniform with an M16 and a green head covering. The Prime Minister of Israel wrote a post about her when she finished her service and joined her unit. So we're not unicorns. We exist. You know, it's just I may be standing on your stage right now and speaking, and I may have this beautiful background of books behind me, but the actual background behind people like me are tens, if not hundreds, of Israeli Arabs that just decided not to show their faces for the sake of their families and for the sake of their safety, that serve the state of Israel proudly and will continue to do so. I have tens of Israeli Arabs that serve in the military right now from October 7th in the reserves. It warms my heart. I was not the only one. I will not be the last one. And this is a path that's becoming more and more taken and heard of than before. I can tell you that in 2014, there was no such thing as outreach to the Arab world and outreach to the Israeli Arab community. And since then, almost every ministry and almost everybody in Israel works in Arabic, and even some American companies have started to do outreach in Arabic. Some Israeli American companies, NGOs started to work like that. So again, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. If we show, Israel is such a tiny country. I like to say it's a table. I always like to say it's a Shabbat table. It's the Shabbat table. If we make sure that there's a place at the Shabbat table, it will be filled. Believe me, it will be filled. We just need to create the space for them. And that's what I tell people on the ground in Arabic. That's what I say in Hebrew. And that's where some of the ministers in the current government also see eye to eye with me. One of them is Minister Shikli. He was one of the ministers, the only minister, where his ministry carried out a campaign in our Israeli Arab towns after October 7th of putting Israeli flags to show solidarity and to show the Israeli Arabs that they're part of Israel. They're not our enemy. We're not shoving you away during a time of war. We're bringing you closer because you're one of us. And that was just a beautiful scene to see Israeli flags flying in our Arab communities. So my service was meaningful. My service continues, even if I don't have the uniform on. A lot of Arabs don't have their uniforms on, and you can't even tell that they're in the IDF or they've done national service, or they've even have, an acceptable working relationship with their Jewish counterparts. So we should not we should not judge a book by its cover, because if I was judged by that Chabad rabbi or by anybody else that shot me off and told themselves, oh, he's just another Arab from Al-Fahim, he probably hates us. It pains me to say, but I probably wouldn't be standing here today, So kind of it shows us that one good deed could go away and do so much good in the world. I do continue to serve, and many others continue to serve and will continue to do so.
Now, there's a clip I saw on YouTube that has like millions of views about, it's a clip of you. And I think that's how I first discovered you. I think part of your story, with the army is that I think your commander convinced your mother to attend your ceremony, right? Your beret ceremony. What do you remember most about seeing her that day?
After 8 months of eating canned food in the IDF, it was the time to celebrate our achievement of finishing our advanced training, and it's time for what we call the beret ceremony. And me being a lone soldier, part of the process in the IDF to get recognized as a lone soldier is they call up your family to make sure that you don't live with them. So my company commander called my mother, and he asked her. He introduced himself that he's a commander in the IDF, and he asked, like, does Yahya live with you? And she went, no, but why are you asking? Because Yahya is not in the army, She thought I was not in the army. So he broke the news to her. He broke the news to her that I joined the army, and she couldn't believe it. The video that you're speaking about is done by my dear friend. Her name is Rachel Lester. She's also from California. She served in the IDF spokesperson unit, and she came as the spokesperson unit and videographed us, my mother, my adopted family, and me getting the beret during the ceremony. And what you don't see in the video that got millions of views was my mother, bless her heart. First, she complimented me and was very worried about how much weight I've lost. And then I explained to her that this is the end of the training, and that we finally got the green beret that belongs to the Nahal Brigade. And then my mother was shocked, looks me up and down, and she goes, you did all of that just to get a hat? And I completely lost it. You could see it in one of in the B-rolls, just laughing with her. But it just shows you that a mother is a mother. She was very worried about her son, just like many other Jewish mothers that send their sons to the IDF. To protect the homeland. It's a beautiful thing. The IDF has been my second family, really. I met great people. My commanders, I still speak to them until today. The soldiers that served with me. My mother is now very happy that a lot of my cousins have decided to go and take this path that I chose for myself. And I was the first soldier in the family, but now we have 2 more soldiers in the same family, my cousins. So this ceremony that you saw on YouTube, I went to another one, same location, same everything, just a few weeks ago for my cousin. And it was just me watching the same scenario happening all over again. And I do pray that this scenario will continue to happen. You can't blame a mother for worrying for her son, and I do love her for supporting me, and accepting the path that I chose for myself. A lot of the pressure that was put on me wasn't actually on me. It was on my family. It was on my mother. It was on my sister that were bothered in the town. So I do appreciate that she still stands by me, and she asks in return. Of course, there's an ask in return request. She does all of that, and all she asks in return, just a small favor of 12 grandchildren. That's all she wants. We spoke about it, so I said I'll do my best. But again, she's a mother. I don't need to explain what a mother is. We all got one.
Wow. I want to speak to you about October 7th. Where were you when that attack began? What did you see that day that you'll never forget? How did it affect you? If you can take us through that.
Where I was on October 7th, I'm going to start this story on October 6th. Yeah, on October 6th, it was a Friday. I took my wife and we went to the Dead Sea just to enjoy the Dead Sea on a Friday afternoon. And on the way back, I look at my wife and I say, you know what? We are passing up the headquarter base for the Nahal Brigade where we do our boot camp. let's just pop into the gas station and get them some sweets and some bamba and stuff. And let's just go, give it to the soldiers that are doing boot camp. And she goes, absolutely. She's on board. So on October 6th, on the evening, we went to the Nahal boot camp and we gave soldiers some sweets. And they looked at us funny, like, what are you doing here on a Friday evening? And I went home, and home for me in October was in a small city called Ashkelon. Ashkelon is it's very close to the Gaza envelope. It all started at 6:30 a.m. I wake up to a siren, and like everybody in the South knows, once you hear the siren, you have a few seconds to get into the bomb shelter. I was lucky to have a bomb shelter in my apartment, so I went to the bomb shelter and I shut the door. And usually, again, this is coming from an Israeli, usually you hear the siren, and then the siren stops. Usually the siren goes on for a minute, for 2 minutes, for 2 minutes at most, and then it stops. Except on that black day. On that black day, the siren just continued for more than 15 minutes with explosions happening all around us. Now, we say that Israel is ready for war, but we are ready for short wars. We're never ready for such a thing, or a lot of Israelis were not ready for it. So once you close that door of the bunker, you have no Wi-Fi and no signal. A lot of people had their houses set up like that. So we're inside the bunker, hearing explosions around us and sirens for a very long time. It was, I think, 15 minutes. And we had no internet. We had no nothing. So you're cut out from the world. When the sirens ended, I immediately stepped outside to the balcony of my home. I was living on the 4th floor, and I look around me, and I see puffs of smoke in the air. And I think to myself, that's Iron Dome. And I see, unfortunately, black smoke coming from the building in front of me. And then it hit me that one of the rockets fell in the neighborhood, and that's the smoke that we're seeing is caused by a fire. And before I could gather my thoughts and try to decipher what's going on, again, the sirens come back and we run back to the shelter. At the third wave, I'm not very proud of this and I don't recommend this to anybody. At the third wave, I've decided that sirens or not, I'm staying outside. This is not something that we've experienced before, and I should stay outside to see really what's going on. And my wife comes to me and says, you have to come into the bunker right now. No debates. So I go into the bunker and I immediately shut the door, and it's like a sketch from Eretz Nehederet. I look at my wife and I'm telling her, don't worry, we have the Iron Dome and stuff. And as I say the word Iron Dome, the ground shakes from underneath us. And I understood that something hit and it was very close. Unfortunately, I didn't understand at first how close it was. A rocket landed on our street and it exploded the cars underneath it. And the cars that were hit by the rockets all just turned to be shrapnel. So the entire car just turned into shrapnel. And I remember I was sitting on my balcony and I'm looking at the direction, and exactly where my chair was, there was a shrapnel, probably this big, exactly where I was sitting. So my wife saved my life that day. I'm very grateful. I proposed right after. And at 8 a.m. in the morning, I text one of my friends. I text my friend Shachar Aviani. Shachar Aviani was the security coordinator for the Kfar Gaza community, and he's the head of security for that community. Unfortunately, Shachar never got my message. Shachar was one of the brave souls that stood for his community, and he was murdered in cold blood with his security team. The extensive damage that we saw in the community of Kfar Gaza was extensive. I can only imagine how fierce of a fight it was. I opened my phone to the news on Telegram, and I remember, like a lot of us, I remember seeing that white pickup truck driving in Sderot. And I look to myself and I think, wow, Hamas really knocked it out of the park. Like they prepared videos, photoshopped videos to have a psych op on us and to think that they've infiltrated Israel. And I didn't believe that it was true until probably an hour or two later when more horrible pictures were surfacing online, and I watched a Facebook Live where one of the Hamas members was knocking on doors and shooting people. Another Facebook Live that was on where they were attacking Thai workers just for being in Israel. I can't really go into details of what was going on in that video. It was that graphic. I saw the bases of where I served in Gaza being overrun. And all I could feel was utter anger and despair for the people, the Israelis, that were still locked in their houses. Nobody was coming to save them. Some brave souls, while everybody was escaping the Nova and escaping the Gaza community, some brave souls from the Bedouin community down south, because they know the field very well, they know the area very well, off-road. They decided to rush in and rescue as much Israelis as they can. I met a few of those brave souls. I lost another friend at the Nova Festival. His name is David Newman. He was a lone soldier. David was full of life, and he was at the Nova Festival to celebrate life. He was a lone soldier with a Haredi background. It's really a shame that I still remember him until today. We sat for hours during our service. Hamas didn't attack us on October 7th. Hamas attacked everything that we stand for. Hamas didn't just attack the Nova Festival. Hamas attacked what the Nova Festival stands for: life. Hamas didn't just attack the Kfar Gaza community. The extent of damage that was done to the Kfar Gaza community was at the youth neighborhood. And they call it the youth neighborhood over there because everybody that lives in that neighborhood is newlyweds or engaged and stuff. And I noticed that was the neighborhood that suffered the most damage, and it was the southern part. It was facing Gaza. So Hamas didn't just attack the community. Hamas was attacking the idea that Israelis, newlyweds, people who decided that this is the land where I want to raise my kids, this is the land where I want to work my entire life. That's what they actually attacked on October 7th. The ideas and the pictures that you saw, that everybody saw, was just a promise that they would do it all over again. So after 3 years, almost 3 years, we see that people are forgetting about what happened and trying to sweep it under the rug and actually having conversations with Hamas about the future of Gaza. I do invite all those people to look at the pictures again, because I don't want them to focus on the acts, but I want them to see that promise in those pictures. I don't usually dwell on such memories, but I found myself dwelling on those pictures and those seeings and stuff for a very long time. And a lot of the stuff I can't really speak about, not because I don't want to. I do want to speak about those things so people would understand. But I want everybody to understand that things were so graphic that even speaking about them, forget the pictures, just speaking about them, it does us no good to our soul. And people tend to forget that. You know what I mean? Somebody in this government or that government is currently sitting with Hamas and discussing the future of Gaza. And Hamas, like any other terrorist organization, will do it again in a heartbeat, no matter what. So October 7th will be repeated if we do not learn the lesson of what happened on that day. If we do not learn the lesson and the warning signs that books like Mein Kampf, I know the name in Arabic, not the, how do you say it? How do you pronounce it? Mein Kampf. The warning signs of the book of Mein Kampf showing up in Gaza and ignoring it and saying this is what they're used to and stuff. We have to wake up and build a better future. When people asked me, why do we see more Arabs standing with Israel? I always say that we were blessed by God. When I say we, I mean the entire Arab nation, the younger generation, to witness the state of Israel in its absolute glory, to witness the state of Israel focusing on education, on startup and technology, and not to witness Israel in a state of war. That's what I told people. I said our generation did not witness a war. We only heard it from our grandparents and parents. And unfortunately, on October 7th, Hamas made sure that our generation also witnesses a war. And if we don't stop them, they will make sure that my kids and your kids are going to witness another war. And we have to stop this cycle of madness. So we fulfill the will of our God of living in a holy place, in the Holy Land, like a holy place, and not a place for conflicts. This is where I was in October 7th. It was October 7th for the past 2 years, I want to say, until Ron Gvili, the last kidnappee, was released from the hands of the terrorists in Gaza. Then, I believe it's not just me, a lot of Israelis just started to breathe. We were holding our breath. We were holding our breath for a year and a half of constant fighting, of delegitimacy abroad, and of worry. And I mean worry for the diaspora Jews. Because over here we have the IDF, but abroad it's a different story. So after Rangvili left, we kind of took a breather, and we have to do everything in our part to make sure that this doesn't happen again. We paid the price. We did pay the very heavy price, and that's on us to live with. But we need to make sure that the next generation, the next 20, 30 years for the state of Israel will not be a war. There will not be a war. There will not be a conflict. I always remind my fellow, my cousins, as I like to speak, as I like to say, I always remind the cousins that the first and second temple were destroyed because of hatred and because fighting between brothers. So God decided that the temple is no more, and this is a punishment for the Jewish people. And October 7th didn't just happen out of a vacuum. Prior to October 7th, we were seeing Israelis running other Israelis with their cars because of political disagreement. One of my favorite activities on a Friday evening was to listen to the late Hassan Nasrallah, because he used to give speeches like no other Arab leader. And I remember prior to October 7th, Hassan, with his very evil smile, looking straight in the camera and saying, "Look at the Zionists, they're destroying themselves from within without us even firing a single bullet." That's how our enemies saw the state of Israel prior to October 7th. And that's why October 7th happened. And I believe that we should solve our problems, the hatred that we have in us, the hatred for this or for that, or for I don't agree with you, or this and that. This should be discussed between us. There should never be any boycott. There should never be any fighting, physical fighting. Israel has a lot of enemies. We don't need any more enemies, especially enemies from within. So October 7th is a lesson, I think, is a lesson, is indications from our enemies of what they would do over and over for us. And I believe they're doing this for us. I don't believe that they do it just for the sake of doing it. And this is a very important point. They don't come to kill us just for the sake of killing us. They come to kill us to make us hate and turn into them, to make us hate them and to justify whatever we're doing and to turn us into them. People filled with hatred, people filled with anger, people that don't care about their neighbor, people that don't ask people how they are and they don't care, and they just, do you understand how much anger you need to have inside of you to run your fellow citizens in a car? It's just an anger that just built up over the years from different things that were happening in Israel, but just we need to be awake. We need to be aware of that. I can't speak for the diaspora because I haven't lived outside of Israel yet, but my message to the diaspora is this: you guys are not on your own. You represent us. This is your home, and whatever is happening in your home should stay in your home. As you say, you don't put your dirty laundry outside. When there's a conflict for Israel, it's for the Israelis to solve out, because believe me, the Israelis they could speak for hours. So we should not dwell and criticize Israel. I saw people criticizing Israel during a time of war. And as an Arab man, if you look at the Arab countries, you don't criticize your king at peaceful times. So how dare you criticize the king at time of war? And in Israel, I do believe it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. We're very vocal, and a lot of people just didn't understand that we were at a state of war, and we should be careful of what we say and do. I could speak about October 7th for hours, but there's a lot of lessons, spiritual ones, more than once that we could see and be taught about. It's the conversation about October 7th should be happening over here. Is what happened? Why did this happen to us? Why now? I believe everybody will find the answer from within. From within.
Would definitely love to have you back on. But as this conversation comes to a close, I want to ask you one last question. More of a hypothetical, but imagine there's a young Arab Muslim boy watching this interview. He believes exactly what you believed. He hates Jews. He hates Israel because that's what he's taught. He's never met a Jewish person. What's one thing you would want him to hear if you could speak to him for a minute or two? What would you say?
Absolutely. I do believe this video will be viewed by many righteous people, Christian and Muslims and Jewish. I do believe those labels are less than what we actually do in life. I do advise everybody, I do truly speak from my heart that the future of Israel and our future in this whole region, where this whole generation is traumatized by war, traumatized by conflict, traumatized by hate, because if it's not for Israel, there would be another group to hate. And I do believe, truly believe, that this is not a way to live. And whomever is watching this video is probably asking themselves, or they're very happy that they found somebody that agrees with them. I do encourage them to just continue on this journey, because it will take you to beautiful places, and you are never alone. God has given each of us a mission on this earth, and we are just carrying it and doing that mission. Not every day. We don't carry that mission every day, but it's just when we get that feeling in your heart when you do something, that's your mission in life. So continue researching, continue making decisions for yourself, continue being a good person before any label comes before that. Like I was told by that Chabad rabbi. And I just want you to understand that we're all human underneath. We're all human. We bleed the same. We hurt the same, and we should care for one another, because we are truly more connected than disconnected. We have more common things than disagreements. Once we fulfill the mission that we have on this earth, once this mission is fulfilled, it will be carried out by others. I always tell people that the number of Arabs that support Israel is a fixed number. It's a number that doesn't change. It's always a fixed number. It's just somebody goes out and another goes in. Like when I finished my army service, my cousins stepped in. And I think that there's a reason for that. There's a reason that always, somehow, another person steps in, because that's God's will. I believe that that's God's will. I truly believe that both sides have learned from this conflict. I pray that both sides have learned from this conflict, and I pray that this doesn't happen again, because I'm not very happy, but I will take the price of this conflict, but I don't want anybody else to do it. And I encourage everybody to stand up for what's right, because we may not feel like it today, but we're going to eat ourselves. Our moral compass is going to be affected later on in life because we didn't do the right thing at that moment or another. So continue doing right, one person at a time, and hopefully very soon we're going to have a very beautiful society to live in. A very beautiful society, a society that gets happy as one and gets sad as one, and no man is left behind or woman. And it's just going to be a beautiful thing. Think about it. It's just when we make sure that every word that we're given by God is done on this earth, it's a very beautiful thing to do, a very beautiful thing to do. So yeah, that's my message to everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I truly appreciate your time, your message. Blown away by everything that you said. Like I said, I hope to speak to you again in the future. Where can people find you? Where can they keep in touch with you, hear from you?
Absolutely. I'm thrilled by people that message me on my social media to tell me where they found me by and what video they saw or post. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. You'll find me on Twitter only when I'm angry. You'll find me on Twitter tweeting. On Telegram, if you want some really detailed Arab world related things, you can find me on Telegram just typing away statistics and according and surveys. I do try to keep it diverse because I know that a lot of people are interested in different things. But the only thing that's connected between all platforms is hope. I only push out hope, never hate. never anger, never scary news, because there's a lot to go around. So please, I want to thank you again for giving me a platform. Really, I do love your channel. As soon as you reached out to me, I think I spent hours just scrolling through the videos. Well done, man. Well done. I'm very happy to find you, the same concept of just sharing hope. That's very important. So catch me whatever you want on any platform. I always reply to messages. I'm very connected to everybody. And thank you for watching this video. I truly hope that you've left this video with something today to think about. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.